This is where Nigerians come first for the best of talk.
My wife beats me like you beat, I don't know, maybe an animal.
A category of females, adolescents, that should not be giving back, are in fact being forced to give back. Not even once, but multiple times.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Hello, Lagos. Welcome back to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. I'm still trying to learn how to pronounce Richard's South African Mututa. Oh, Lord, I've got to practice. But let me tell you, I told you when I went to Istanbul, it was absolutely fantastic. It was almost like being in a cave of like-minded people, people who I had wanted to meet, whose work I had followed online, and they were suddenly there right in front of me. My next guest is a female. I'm always saying we don't get enough women, but I have two women today and I am chuffed. Abby Martins is an independent journalist. She's not just a woman, don't you dare. She's an independent journalist known for her critical reporting on U.S. foreign policy, corporate influence in media, and global politics. She first gained recognition as the host of Breaking the Set on RT America. This was around 2012 to 2015, where she provided sharp critiques of mainstream media and government narratives. But even more so, Abby is also a filmmaker. Abs, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Hey, girl, how are you?
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
No, thank you. I wish we had an hour, but we've only got 30 minutes. So let me get to it. Your film. Let's talk about your film. It was to do with the right of return, I believe, in Gaza. Talk to us about that film before we move forward.
Yes, we all like to talk about how history began on October 7th, or not we, but the collective we in the Western press. But of course, as we know, this is a 75-year history of colonial subjugation and genocidal policies. And so this film was in 2019, and it really showed the state of Gaza before October 7th. It was uninhabitable. There was a lack of potable water, a lack of electricity. You cannot live like that. Is about one of the chapters of subjugation and brutality against Palestinians, where they had organized a mass march, peaceful, bared chests, holding flags, going up to this fortified artificial partition fence that divides them from their ancestral lands, and they were mowed down by snipers methodically and systematically over the course of several weeks. In one day, they killed 60 people in one of the most horrific massacres of unarmed protesters in modern history. And it was just absolutely astounding the way that this was covered and the lack of accountability. As we know, this is just par for the course, but they were mowing down medics, journalists, disabled people, and children. And so we felt like we had to document this. And so because I was banned from entering Gaza, I worked with Palestinian videographers on the ground who risked their lives to document these war crimes and the heroic Palestinian resistance of just facing down snipers, cowardly snipers perched behind sand dunes, killing them.
Indeed. Why were you banned? Let me ask quickly. I think I can guess. But why were you banned?
I was called a propagandist and an Iranian spy, which I'm used to being called a Russian spy or a Venezuelan spy. That was news to me. I was like, I don't know where you're getting this from, but damn you guys. So, Israel just says whatever they want and they can just slap bans on people, which is so funny. They're like, come to Gaza, come to Israel, come to Palestine, see for yourself. I'm like, well, we tried.
But
There's a reason why you don't want press.
Yeah. You've been at this for quite a long time. Like you said, history didn't begin on October 7th. How does it make you feel then when you hear, especially Western media, when they keep going on about October 7th, the likes of Piers Morgan, who constantly says, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? October 7th, but October 7th. How does that make you feel, given the work that you've been doing all these years?
It's frustrating, doesn't begin to describe it. Look, we know that this is a 75-year crime, and October 7th was an inevitability because the arrogance to think that you can keep people trapped in an open-air prison. with the lack of human rights. I mean, the lack of freedom, mobility. I mean, all of these things will inevitably lead to something like what happened. It was a pressure cooker. But of course, we see the framing is so cynical and so obvious. I mean, every article has to start with a horror and atrocity of October 7th and condemning Hamas while providing no context or framework at all about what Palestinians have been going through. What happened on October 6th, 5th, 4th? As we know, the previous year was the deadliest year for actually Palestinian children in the West Bank. Several dozens, dozens were actually mowed down by IDF soldiers and settlers. So, all of this context is so crucial. But the problem with people like Piers Morgan to demand that you condemn Hamas, you're immediately trying to conflate the two and put them on equal footing. And we know that there's one side that's a colonizer oppressor and the other side that's the oppressed colonized people.
Let's come back to today. So, you're American. You're American through and through. Now your president is President Trump.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Apologize on behalf of my people.
President Trump became president of, what is he, 40, is it 47? 47th POTUS or something like that. Now, let's even talk about the American elections. First of all, if you spend a couple of minutes talking about the American elections and how America ended up with Trump 2.0. Abby, how did that happen? Tell us.
I know. No, it's amazing. And I think it really is reflective of American society because for the first go around, you had the entire Democratic establishment up in arms trying to blame the election on Russia. Putin installed Trump, and then they can look at these technicalities. Look, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He just won the Electoral College. It's just the failure of the system. Of course, there was no movement to actually rectify this antiquated system that somehow is not representative at all. But of course, they really, really tried to pretend that Trump was an aberration. And I think we know now, it's clear as day, the failures of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism has basically just led us to the inevitability of a fascist takeover. And we've seen that all around the world, the rise of authoritarianism, because of the failure of liberals, right? That it's not a cohesive ideology. It's just kind of the stepping stone to authoritarianism. And so liberals have no policy, they have no opposition, they're floundering. And so we saw this hijacking of all the populist rhetoric, hijacking of all the disaffected people, especially younger people. We saw a lot of young white males gravitating toward Trump. So the worse the conditions get for people, the more they're going to gravitate over to the right wing, who are actually promising them things and blaming people for their problems, not just floating out identity politics and non-solutions. People want to hear that people are going to do something for them, right? And hey, if you're going to blame immigrants for your problems, at least there's someone to blame. And so Trump captured a huge swath of the public. He gained, he actually lost votes in totality, but Biden lost so many votes for Kamala Harris that it just was a blowout. It was a landslide. And so at this point, the politicians can no longer blame anyone but themselves. But I think that we've seen that they're still going to blame the left. They're going to blame pro-Palestine voters, even though they didn't cater 1 ounce to people who were upset about Gaza and overseeing a genocide. And now you have Trump installed. You have Elon Musk, this tech overlord who's now our sitting president, the richest man in the world, who's basically hijacked in this hostile takeover. The Treasury Department, he has minions working for him. It's a really bad way that we're going. But the Democrats have no opposition whatsoever. And the grassroots mobilized people are so exhausted from protesting Gaza protesting the genocide that Democrats oversaw. We really have to regroup and figure out how we're going to mobilize to stop fascism. And
that's the question. Rightly so. Many people have blamed the Democrats. Incidentally, many people more so blame Biden. Now, of course, the genocide was part of it, and the fact that America is supplying the bombs that's killed thousands and thousands of people. But even more so do you think Kamala could have had a better chance had Biden stepped down earlier, number one? And do you think Biden actually did anything after he stepped down to help Kamala win? Because some say he didn't.
Oh, he did nothing. I mean, he was like Weekend at Bernie's. I mean, he was a walking, talking corpse, but at the same time, he was such a virulent Zionist and so unapologetic about his ideology. He was so hardlined. You have him on the House floor decades ago saying if Israel didn't exist, we would have to create her to protect our interests. He said, you don't have to be a Jewish to be a Zionist. I mean, he was very clear about that and very clear about how strong he supported Israel his entire career. So it was kind of like everything lined up at the wrong place at the wrong time. The fact that he just happened to be the sitting president and just really wanted this genocide. And he sat on his hands for months and months and let the unending slaughter of babies and children for months. But when he stepped down, he did nothing. In fact, I bet you the pride and the opportunism and just the ladder climbing of all of the yes men surrounding him. I mean, I think Kamala knew that she just had to fall in line and do exactly what Biden said. And what was amazing, there was a very incredible moment where they were asked specifically about what would you do differently? What will you do differently? She said nothing. Yeah. Nothing. She thought that just because she was a black woman, it would be a shoo-in with black voters and women. And guess what? That's not the way it works. People want differences. They didn't like Biden. He was an abject failure in every sense of the word. And so it was just horrible what happened. I mean, she had a pop and a bump, and I think people were really relieved that Biden stepped down because he was so old and such a nightmare. But because of her failure to differentiate herself, we saw the writing on the wall.
Now we are here. We've got Trump. Here we are. We've got Trump. AIPAC is said, and I'm going to let you confirm or, throw that out, is said to be highly influential in American politics. In fact, there are those who say the Edelsons, Miriam Edelson, actually sponsored Trump's campaign. Earlier this week, I think it was on Tuesday, Trump then suggests what most people find astonishing, that the Palestinians should leave Gaza, they should go to Egypt, they should go to Jordan or wherever, and that he will build nice seafront apartments, etc. Is that Trump talking, or is that AIPAC, or is that the Edelson, or is that the people that gave him money talking?
Trump is an empty suit. He is a real estate venture capitalist. He's a capitalist through and through, and he goes where the money talks. And we saw he was kind of a vehicle for Christian evangelicals. The first go around, he delivered exactly what they wanted: the overturning of Roe v. Wade, our abortion rights, and the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem. He did exactly what they wanted. And now this go around, he's kind of just an empty suit and a vehicle for Elon Musk's agenda and all of these crazy tech overlords, the Palantirs. But again, I mean, he's so close with Netanyahu. You have Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, who directly profits from the illegal settlements in the West Bank and will from whatever they do in Gaza. You have Miriam Edelson sitting behind him, even closer than anyone else at the inauguration. You know that they bought in the presidency. Elon Musk threw in, I think, $122 million. This is unprecedented theft. I mean, this is just purchasing power here. So I think it's a confluence of all of these factors. And we're going to see exactly, look, Trump does talk out of his butt a lot. He does speak very loosely. And I think when he said, we're going to take over Gaza, Netanyahu was probably like, whoa, what do you mean you, me? He was like, no, that's what we're going to do. But I think at the end of the day, I think he's dead serious and just announcing ethnic cleansing plans. It was hallucinatory for me. Look, I'm not surprised easily, but seeing Trump announce ethnic cleansing next to the grinning, smirking genocide fugitive who oversaw the destruction while Trump is saying Gaza's hell, Gaza's a demolition site. Who would want to live there? You want to go there and get shot and get bombed? Well, who did that, man? You guys did it. And Netanyahu's going, It's like, cuff this maniac, throw him in the gulag. What is going on here? I mean, I can't even imagine what Palestinians were thinking watching just open declarations of colonization and conquest in the year 2025 from the world's empire. I mean, here we go again, back to the dark ages.
Indeed. Which is where you come in, independent journalists, those who report the truth. How, or at least they report freely. Right? Because obviously, there's truth, there's facts in it, but how important are independent journalists? And I know you all want to call. You've probably got questions for Abby. We've only got 30 minutes. I'm only going to take 2 or 3 questions. 0201-277-0993, 0201-465-7190. You should have sent your WhatsApp message or your question to WhatsApp 0809-597-5805. How important do you think are independent journalists like yourself, Abby? And we met a lot of them in Istanbul.
Well, I think we're very, very important. The most important people in the world. I mean, look, I have dedicated my entire life's work to uplifting people's struggles, to highlighting grassroots resistance to the oppressive, subjugating policies by my government, especially foreign policy. I think all of these struggles are interconnected. I don't think you can uncouple the $1.5 trillion that we are spending with our tax money to oppress and subjugate tens of millions of people around the world under the boot of empire, under the boot of imperialism. And so my life's passion has been exposing this and trying to link these struggles together and try to build this kind of internationalism and awareness about what my country is really doing, because I think if people just knew, they would be stunned. And the way that the corporate media works, I mean, here we're in a country where we uphold the First Amendment, this sacred notion of a fair and free press. But if you really unpack what that means, I mean, the corporate media is subsidized by these big banks, these big defense contractors, and big oil corporations, the institutions that we are trying to fight against, the institutions that are part and parcel with this foreign policy apparatus, right? All of these systems work together and they're interlocking to oppress humanity and to pollute our environment for future generations. And so independent journalism is so crucial to hold people's feet to the fire, because the way corporate media works and the way that these systems work is access. It's going along to get along. And a lot of these people are true believers. They ascend in these systems because they believe in U.S. imperialism and empire. They believe in capitalism. And they're Zionist. You wouldn't be able to get jobs and hold jobs in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, unless you did believe these things. And so what they really end up doing is that they end up being an appendage of the state and working to manufacture consent for these systems that are destroying our precious planet and the potential for future generations. Independent journalism comes in and is a bulwark to try to hold power to account and really speak truth to power. And because we can never rely on these institutions to cover our movements fairly. And so that's why we're seeing finally the tide turning in somewhere like Palestine and Gaza, because of Palestinian journalists being able to dictate their reality for the first time. For the longest time, it's been a top-down narrative of Zionist influence and U.S. propaganda, and that's changing, and that's only due to the lives risked and the bravery put forward by these Palestinian journalists to show us what the truth really is, and it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. You can call now. I'll pick up your phone now. The first call I will pick up. Otherwise, I'm going to my next question to Abby. Okay, I knew you would call. And you're all calling. Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening.
Very quickly.
Yeah, you have Samuel on the line.
Samuel, very quickly.
Okay, yes. Number one, I couldn't want to ask, I mean, what's the comparison between the independent journalism and the investigative journalism?
Okay, good. All right, I'll ask her that. Thank you. Next one. Hold on, Abby. I'm going to answer a couple before you get to answer. Hello.
Evening, Sitioge.
Evening. Good evening, Emmanuel.
Yeah, it's Emmanuel. Trump and Putin, who is a better land grabber?
Okay.
Number two, there is this impeachment notice that is flying around. Will it fly?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, one of the Dems has come out and said he's going to start impeachment proceedings. That's what Emmanuel is saying. Is it going to fly? And the second question of Emmanuel is, who's the best? Is it the best or do you mean the worst? I don't know. Land grabber, Trump or Putin? Right? And the other question, I forgot the first one now, was the difference between investigative journalism and independent journalism. I'm only going to give you a minute and a half. The lines are going. We don't have much time.
No problem. Okay, so first of all, I'll try to do rapid fire here. I mean, I think Putin is a horrible war criminal. Obviously, the invasion of Ukraine was awful. But, you know, I think that this is kind of unprecedented. I mean, to brazenly declare colonialism and ethnic cleansing in the way that Trump has is just, it just reckons back to the oldest days that I thought that we were really past. I mean, old school colonialism, Christopher Columbus style, putting the gun to the head of indigenous people and expelling them. I mean, I just can't see it getting any worse than that. If he pursues any of these things, he absolutely should be impeached. I mean, he should be impeached on day one because he's a rapist. He's a felon. He tried to do an insurrection. I mean, the list goes on and on about why he never should have gotten to be president. But look, Congressman Al Green proposed articles of impeachment. Great. I hope that we can mobilize people and amass the potential to really impeach this criminal for the proposal of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And investigative journalism, it's a dying breed, but it's so crucial and more crucial than ever. And that's why I'm working right now on a 4-year project to expose the U.S. military's environmental impact on the planet. And that's been an investigative project that's been my life's passion. So thank you so much. I'm so honored to be a part of your platform, and I hope I can join you again.
No. I've still got a couple of minutes. ICC.
Oh, great.
So Trump wants to sanction, or he's released another executive order. It almost seems like he's going to rule by executive order. You know, this is presidency of executive order to sanction the ICC. And of course, I had something I wanted to play to you, but I don't know if we've got time. It's about a minute. Can I play it, Khan? Can you please play it, please? Very quickly. Please play it.
Chapters of the Great March of Return, which began on March 30th, 2019.
I'm going to read you some heavy criticism that you've received from the United States. As we know, the United States is not a party to the ICC, nor is Israel. Recently, when word came out that this may be happening at some point, U.S. senators and U.S. congresspeople, mostly Republicans, wrote you a letter signed by Senator Tom Cotton, Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and others. This is the quote: "Target Israel and we will target you. If you move forward with the measures indicated in the report, we will move to end all American support for the ICC, sanction your employees and associates, and bar you and your families from the United States. You have been warned." Is that a threat?
Was it a threat?
Absolutely. I mean, these are the kings they think they're the kings of the world. I mean, they think that they own the planet. And I think this is a really stark example of how far they are willing to go to maintain power. They already have an act in place during the Bush administration called the Hague Invasion Act, where if the ICJ or ICC sanction or put out anything that will undermine U.S. or their allies, they would invade the Netherlands with military force. So they're serious. I mean, they're maniacs at the helm. We're ruled by genocidal maniacs. And I apologize on behalf of my country to the planet that these are the rulers that we have somehow elected. I mean, Trump ruling by executive order as if he's a king. He owns the courts. He's already bought SCOTUS. So whatever, all of these things are illegal and criminal. But at the end of the day, if you rule the courts,
indeed,
you know, you rule the law.
I have a question, or at least, what is it a comment? I don't know. The main concern, but there's no name, the main concern of the Israelis is their security. They are worried about Hamas. If they allow Palestinians to remain in Gaza, Hamas will attack them again in the near future. What do you have to say to that? I can give you 30 seconds.
I have to say that Hamas has always offered a path to peace. If you look at Hamas's revised charter, they have clearly said that they would be willing to take a Palestinian state among 1967 borders. It's the Likud charter that says from the river to the sea they want. It's the Likud that advance genocide and spew genocide and actually practice genocide. So this notion, this invisible idea of there would be a genocide against Jews. Well, guess what? There's a genocide going on against Palestinians, and that's actually happening in front of our eyes. So all of this mythical ideas about what ifs, it doesn't matter. You can't take away people's basic human rights, and you have to give people freedom. And that's what we have to pursue, justice and accountability for what we've seen happen in Gaza, and the rest of Palestine needs to be liberated.
Okay, I have another message from Femi, who's in the U.S. He's in Dallas. He said, it's just a shame the Democrats didn't come out with a formidable candidate. America is in deep crisis with the kind of leadership possibly another Republican would have been better, but not Trump. The midterm elections will be crucial to save long-standing institutions. Do you agree?
No, I think that the Democratic Party has really failed us, and we need to start amassing and mobilizing an organized front that is away from the Democratic Party. They are the party of corporations and banks and oil companies and defense contractors. They're just Republican lights. And look, I look at the system and I say, if your fundamental human rights are up on the chopping block every 2 to 4 years, that's a system problem. That's not a party problem.
Okay. I have another question. Would you agree that Trump trying to get, or his suggestion to get rid of the Palestinians from Gaza is the equivalent of chasing everybody out of LA?
I mean, that's what we need to ask ourselves. Look, if people just are, the level of dehumanization against Palestinians is so deep-seated and all-encompassing that people really need to take a step back and say, what would I do if armed settlers came to my home and ejected me from my home? Or if the president of another country said, yep, everyone in LA or everyone in Portland, Oregon, where I am, lock up and move out. Go to Canada or go to Mexico. What would we do? How would we respond? It's time to take yourself out of your privilege and understand how these words and movements impact other people. People don't want to leave their entire homes behind. They're indigenous to the land. They will die for that land. They've bled, sweat, and cried to hold on to that land, and that means that's their ancestral land. How dare you suggest that they should just pack up and leave? It's abhorrent, and we should all stand unified against that.
Abby Martins, she's also the host of the Empire Files podcast. You've got to go online. I told you she's fire. I told you she's power. I told you I bring the best, most intelligent people onto Borderlines. We crossed borders. We went to Oregon. Abby, thank you so, so much. Thank you.
So much love. I hope to see you again.
Absolutely.
I'm coming to Nigeria.
Please do. Take care. Have a fabulous weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.